So picture this. It's 1914. The world is full of amazing new tech, incredible art, wild fashion. It really felt like humanity had peaked, you know? Like this was the absolute height of civilization. But right under that shiny surface, a totally different idea was starting to bubble up. Let's have a war. It's just a shocking thought, right? That this supposedly advanced modern world was secretly, or maybe not so secretly, just itching for a massive fight. So how in the world did that happen? It wasn't some simple fall from grace. It was this clumsy, unbelievably complicated stumble into total chaos. Let's break down exactly how the world managed to trip and fall headfirst into the Great War. Okay, so to get why the war happened, you first have to get the world that made it possible. Europe in 1914 was not some peaceful, happy place. Nope. It was more like a giant powder keg, just sitting there, waiting for someone to light a match. It all starts with some classic, old-school grudges. France was still seriously ticked off about some territory it had lost to Germany a few decades back. They wanted it back, period. And that kind of simmering resentment, well, it's a powerful thing. Meanwhile, Germany was feeling its oats. It was this new, super powerful nation, and it wanted what it called its place in the sun, which, let's be honest, was just a nice way of saying it wanted to build a bigger empire and get more influence, much to the irritation of pretty much everyone else. And then you've got the whole naval race. Look, if you're an island nation with the biggest, baddest navy on the planet, nothing makes you more nervous than seeing some other guy building their own powerful fleet right next door. Britain was watching Germany like a hawk. And it just gets messier from there. You've got these old, crumbling empires like Austria, Hungary, just packed with different ethnic groups who are all desperate for their own countries. Russia kind of saw itself as the big brother and protector of a lot of these groups. Then you add in this tangled mess of alliances, all these secret promises people made to watch each other's backs, and military technology that nobody really understood the true power of yet. And, well, you've got a recipe for absolute disaster. So you've got the powder keg all packed and ready. Now all you need is the spark. And that spark came from a series of events so completely unlikely, so coincidental, it almost feels like somebody wrote it as a movie script. This is the wild story of one single day in Sarajevo. I mean, just look at this chain of events. It's an absolute masterclass in catastrophic bad luck. Publishing the route ahead of time, the first assassination attempt failing, the Duke making this noble decision to go visit his wounded men, and then the final fatal wrong turn. The driver makes a mistake, the car stalls, and by pure dumb luck, it stops literally right in front of one of the assassins who had already failed once that day. He did not miss a second time. That single gunshot in Sarajevo, that was the sound of the first domino tipping over. And what happened next was a chain reaction so fast and so unstoppable, it dragged the entire continent into a massive war in just a couple of weeks. Austria-Hungary was, to put it mildly, furious. They pointed the finger at Serbia and went running to their big, powerful friend, Germany. They basically asked, hey, if we go after Serbia, you've got our back, right? And Germany gave them what's famously called a blank check. They promised their unconditional support, no matter what, and that was the move that turned a local crisis into a global one. Just look at how fast everything fell apart. This wasn't a slow walk into war. It was an all-out sprint. Austria-Hungary declares war, which triggers Russia. Russia getting its army ready triggers Germany. Germany going after Russia triggers France, and then Germany's invasion plan triggers Britain. Boom. In 1 week, every major power in Europe was at war. Now, Germany didn't just stumble into this. They thought they had a genius plan for a quick, decisive victory. They believed they had it all figured out, but their entire strategy was built on a handful of assumptions that turned out to be fatally, disastrously wrong. The logic, on paper, seemed pretty solid. Russia was enormous, so it would take them ages, weeks, maybe even months, to get their whole army geared up and ready to fight. So the plan was simple. Kind of ignore Russia for a bit, throw absolutely everything they had at France, knock them out of the war in a few weeks, and then swing the entire German army back east to deal with the Russians. One quick war, not two long grinding ones. But reality hit that plan like a freight train. Germany thought they could just take a quiet stroll through Belgium. Instead, the Belgians fought back, and fought back hard, buying the Allies precious time. Invading a neutral country also made Britain furious, and that brought the world's biggest empire into the war against them. And maybe worst of all, Russia got its act together way faster than anyone expected. Suddenly, that quick one-front war became a slow, agonizing, two-front nightmare. So with Germany's big plan in absolute tatters, the war starts to morph into something else, something that nobody had prepared for. The dream of a quick victory completely died, and in its place, this new, horrifying kind of warfare was about to be born on the Western Front. The German armies were so close they could practically see Paris. But they were exhausted. The French, in this incredibly desperate last stand at the Battle of the Marne, just stopped their retreat. They found a gap that had opened up between the German armies, they poured into it, and they forced the Germans to fall back. The race to Paris was officially over. So after the Germans retreated, this really strange new phase started. Each army kept trying to get around the side of the other one, to outflank them. They called it the race to the sea, and it ended when they literally ran out of continent. The battle line now stretched unbroken from the border of Switzerland all the way to the English Channel. There was nowhere left to go around. So they dug in. Both sides started creating these vast, complex networks of trenches. And this is the stalemate that would come to define the Western Front for the next 4 years. A war of attrition, where victory wasn't measured in miles, but in bloody, hard-won meters. And life inside those trenches? It was a special kind of hell. Just try to imagine a world where artillery shells are constantly exploding around you, where you have to cross a poisoned no-man's land into machine gun fire, where the mud is so deep it could literally swallow a person whole. This was a whole new landscape of death, of disease, of giant rats, and a kind of psychological trauma we had never seen before. And all this leads to the most haunting question of all. We've seen how one wrong turn and a whole cascade of bad decisions kicked this whole thing off. But the real mystery is why it kept going. Why would the leaders of the so-called height of civilization keep sacrificing millions of their own people for just a few more meters of muddy ground? It's a question that honestly still echoes over 100 years later.